where structure is a cause just as a specific event. And the history of Amasia is very good as an example of that. That the soldier stumbling across a border may have initiated the sequence of events, but the sequence of events were determined by international law and the patterns of relationships among the nations. Okay, and it's the structure that needs to be changed if you want a robust system, not the specific instances of things that go wrong. Now, there's another example in Ashby's book, Mechanisms of Intelligence, which is largely unavailable. We're trying to make it available again. It's the automatic self-strategizer, otherwise called ASS. And this is a system that learns, but it's created in terms of a simple tic-tac-toe routine. And what it does is it learns, just as the branching sequence. The branching sequence is a way of describing the behavior of this learning system. But what is organizing itself in this case is the two players. There's the automatic self-strategizer, the learning algorithm, and man that's playing a tic-tac-toe game. But the computer goes first, and so it learns, and eventually it only does things that result in a win. So that the computer goes from making lots of mistakes to never making a mistake, because it always chooses the sequence of events that produces a win. And that is a self-organizing system. It's a learning mechanism, the learning device and the man. So we have here a general design rule. In order to change any system, expose it to an environment such that the interaction between the system and its environment moves the system in the direction you want it to go. And I gave you the example of making steel, educating a child, incentive systems for controlling business, incentive systems for controlling the behavior of employees within a business, and government regulation of business. So Ashby's theory of self-organization is a very general theory. It encompasses Darwin's theory, and it can explain emergence, as in the case of the magnetic cubes in the box, and a new pattern of order emerging. And it does emphasize selection rather than the generation of variety. In the case of Mueller's theory, you remember we had genotype and phenotype. New variety came in at the genotype, but selection occurs at the phenotype. Well, the notion of self-organization focuses on selection as a generator of new variety. So they're related. Okay, now let me just say a little bit about open and closed conceptualizations. Back in the days when we were doing the electronic discussions and trying to promote the idea of second-order cybernetics through this electronic conversation, there was a big discussion of open and closed systems. And the reason was that we had some people in the discussion who were from the area of management. And management was making a change in the 1970s from a focus on what goes on inside the corporation to what goes on outside the corporation. The issues from outside the corporation included civil rights legislation, women's rights, environmental protection, etc. Previously, corporations had focused on designing products, motivating workers, things going on inside the organization. So this notion that a corporation should be open to its environment was a kind of big issue among management scientists. So when we spoke about closed conceptualizations, as in the case of a self-organizing system with unchanging interaction rules, people thought we were very antiquated in our thinking. So the moral to the story is that there are many conceptions of open and closed systems, and you need to pay attention to open to what and closed to what, and in which discipline. Normally, you think of open as being receptive to new information, closed as being not open to new information, but it goes beyond that. So that in physics, entropy increases in thermodynamically closed systems. So you have a closed boundary, but you're only dealing with energy, okay, and energy becomes unavailable. In biology, living systems are open to matter, energy, and information, so that you eat and you breathe, you take in matter and energy, and that's what keeps the body going. And you read things and you write things, so you're taking in information and you're putting out information. So living systems are open to both matter, energy taken together, and information. And I just described the management notion from looking at what goes on inside the corporation to looking at government regulation and so forth. And then there's the notion of self-organization, where, from cybernetics, where the system is open to energy in that it's dynamic, but it's closed to information, meaning the interaction rules do not change. All of which is simply to say, understand that you have two issues, matter, energy, and information, and different disciplines treat those differently. Okay, so we've gone over feedback and control, Ashby's theory of adaptation, types of regulation, law of requisite variety, amplification of regulatory capability, conceptions of self-organization. And that's what I intended to cover in the second part.